All right, and we'll get started. So, yeah, so this is Miss Marissa Monivis. So she is an awesome person, and she has a pretty cool job that I'm going to let her explain, or maybe she might ask you what you think too, because I think she's probably going to do a better job explaining it than I would. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her. But if you guys have questions, please feel free to unmute, or you can put in the chat if that's a little easier. So take it away.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. Hello again. My name is Marissa Monivis. I am an interactive developer at a company called Vert Digital. Before I even get started, I'm just curious, does anybody know what development is? In my case, if I was an interactive development, what do you think that I do on a daily basis? If anybody wants to chime in.
We had an answer of website building.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I love that. Well, fun fact, good answer. That's pretty much most of what I do. I also build emails. So any emails that you get in your inbox, there are some that we design and develop out into exactly what you see in your inbox, which is pretty cool. We also do HTML banners, which on the side of a website, if you see a little ad pop up with some cool animations, we also develop those. So we kind of touch on a lot of different things, not just websites, but most of what I do touch mostly on websites. So I'm sure you guys can see my screen, but this is our company website that we have. If you can't see my screen, let me know, but it should be green, a lot of green for you. And this is our company website, and this is something that we designed and redid a couple years ago from a refresh of something that we did, but just some fun, cool imagery that I wanted to show you guys, and then I'll kind of touch on other things that we do. But my day-to-day real quick, is I do both front-end and back-end development. Does anybody know the difference between front-end and back-end?
I don't think they do.
No. All right, I'll go ahead and touch on it. So front end is basically making things look really pretty. So as you can see here, any of these transitions, any of the videos that are looking here, things moving as you scroll down the page, pictures being in there, any of the styling elements with this little object over on the side, that's pretty much front end, even interactions. So if I open up a window, or not just a window, but a menu, and I wanted to click on another item and things move around, that's all front end. That's all that you can see on the page itself. For back end, it's something, let's say I'll put it in your guys' terms. If you were to upload a video to YouTube, where exactly does that connect to? Where does the video actually get sent to? And then how does it get uploaded to that location? That's kind of what I do as well, is we basically connect all those things. So as another example is, let's say I go to the contact form, and you're on any website or anything, and you want to communicate with this particular company. If you select items here and you start filling out this form, I also create the connection between whatever you enter here and where it gets sent to, whether that's through an email, gets sent to a platform or anything like that. So pretty intuitive, pretty fun, but pretty much do everything on that sense. And yeah, I can keep showing you guys some cool projects, cool websites. Otherwise, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Anything? All right, cool.
I was gonna say I have a question, but I want to see your website first. That you were.
Sure. Yeah. So this is our main website. Kind of moving into some deeper pages, just if you guys want to see. And then we've got team, cool transitions. This is one of our lead designers at our agency that pretty much thought all of these ideas up, which are really cool. So some of our team, we can send out links and share them later too, but just it's fun. Oh, I think I'm on this page too. There's my dog, yay. So just fun, this is stuff that we work on. And then another website that I wanted to show you guys real quick, just because it's really cool. Has anybody heard of First Watch? It's a breakfast place. They're actually pretty common around here in Atlanta, yeah. First Watch is actually one of our bigger clients that we have and that we work with. And I think about 2 years ago, we completely redesigned their website, and we redesigned their website from the ground up. So we built it from just a blank file system, which is really awesome. And that's actually what we do with most of our websites. We do very customized websites. So to show you what that looks like, because it's really pretty. This is the First Watch website. Didn't look like this a couple years ago, but we did add a couple enhancements just recently in the last few months. But just very clean, cool, shows you all the food when you go to it on the menu. And even pieces, as example, if you want to change your location and customize a menu to whatever location that you're at, which is another backend piece. So that's kind of how we connected, is, you know, based on location, based on a database, when you add information to it, what items pull into that front end display. That's also considered backend. But you can pick cool things, move around the site. You get to see pretty little images when it decides to load. There you go. Get to see cool images. $1 Million Bacon, I highly recommend. It's really good there. But yeah, this is all stuff that we've done on their site, and it's really fun and cool.
Very cool. So if a student was like, hey, I want to do her job, what kind of like education, like training skills would they need to have?
Sure. So I actually came into this job a little differently than probably most would assume. You can go to school for it. They do have courses, college courses. You go for more of the information technology or any of the software engineer, you know, courses that they may have at a college. In my case, I studied graphic design and information communication and technology, which is more like a digital marketing kind of route. And I started out in account management at an advertising agency, and I didn't like it. I wanted to do something else. So instead, ended up leaving that job and found a coding boot camp. So you can also do a coding boot camp, which is 4 months. Mine was a full stack. So it taught you both front end and back end. And after those 4 months, I got an internship for a few months, and that was actually the company that I stayed with. So you do have some options on how you want to go about it. You can also self-teach. In some cases, I've heard many people that just take all these online classes, many resources for that matter if you need it. But it just kind of depends on what you learn and what you can apply into the real world. In this case, we work a lot with WordPress. So if you do want to be a self-taught person or go to school for it, WordPress is a very, very used platform, CRM platform across this industry. So you could definitely do that. But yeah, different options there.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear though, that it's like, you know, even if you have a different background, like you can still like change your job or change your role.
I highly recommend it, actually. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted coming out of college. So it's just nice to have those options and to be resourceful in that sense and find those options that you want to do.
Yeah, very cool. Well, and I don't want to keep taking over all the questions. So I don't know, students, do you have any questions before I ask some more? Okay, well, I've got another one. If you've got some that you want to hear them, you can put them in the chat. That's all good too. But yeah, so we do have a math class sitting here. And I'm curious, yeah, what does math look like in your job?
Sure. Well, funny story. I actually write a lot of programs to do math for me, but we do actually use a lot of math when we are doing things, whether it's just basic logic, when you have to know, you have to multiply something by 2 and then divide it by this amount of columns, as an example, like, you know, you want this thing to show up 4 or 5 times in a column of 3. Like, how do you math that out to do that? So sometimes there's things that you actually put into the code. Other times it's analytics. When you're kind of recording numbers and trying to figure out like, okay, well, this person hit this server and how many times is it over this other one or something like that. So you kind of just figure out those things. Hasn't been too complicated of math problems. We actually, now that you mention it, we have a calculator on here, which again, I wrote a program to handle math in that sense. But we do have like the food calculator when it comes to items. So as an example, let's pull up a fun one. I think the trifecta has some good stuff. You can add or remove items here, and then it adds in the calories and the macros and stuff for you. So yeah, I write the programs for it, but you still use it.
That would be a lot of calories for this one item.
I would add a lot too, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, can you tell us, yeah, what does like a typical day look like for you?
Sure. Well, I would love to start with this because I think it'd be fun. This is what my screen looks like on a day-to-day. We've got all the files over here and we've got all the code. which by the way, this is actually the nutrition thing that I was talking about. So it's a bunch of code there, but we have a huge file system where we make all these templates, we make all these elements that show up on the page and everything like that. And then what my day-to-day looks like is dealing with functions and how those apply to certain things on the page. As an example, this is one of the menu items that shows up. We've got the menu page with home versions. How do you pull in dynamic content from a database into that? So as an example, if I scroll down here, you will see, I think it's here. Anyway, you'll see something like this, where this is actually pulling information from a database itself, and using a dynamic template in that loading and everything like that. So yeah, this is basically what I stare at on a daily basis. If I'm not doing code, other things could be strategy, working around development strategy for a client and kind of sending out recommendations on that sense. Another piece is bug fixing. Someone sends back a site or something on their site. They're like, hey, this is broken. You find out it's ooh, hello. You find out it's a plugin interference or something like that. But yeah, this is just code. Code is my day-to-day. It's not that intimidating, I promise.
Yeah, I'll say it does not make sense to me, but that's because I have not gone to a coding school program or form of training. Very cool. So what are some of the most challenging parts of your job?
I would say some of the more challenging ones. I had an answer for that. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it's a lot of, for me, is the troubleshooting. So if somebody comes back, especially with a site that we haven't built and we're just helping maintain the site, is coming back and figuring out how to debug something. And debug is kind of a common word in the industry as far as development in that sense, but you have to really think about a problem and come at it from a completely different angle that you wouldn't assume it was, and just kind of work through piece by piece, kind of backtrack to where pieces are broken and figure that out. Those are the biggest challenges, because you don't know what's going wrong. That didn't necessarily build it. So you're taking other people's logic and thinking, and you're being like, okay, let's figure out a solution to that. So I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, then what's the best part about your job?
I love logic. If anybody loves logic and problem solving and just figuring something out with a very limited sources, but maybe some guidance here and there, this is an amazing job. It's probably one of my favorites, because you can also be creative because you're organizing things. Like, you're literally organizing content. As an example, like, you can make one single partial for a piece of code that you can put on like 18 different pages or something like that. So it's like thinking through how to most strategically build something so it's scalable and it's usable, and you can just use it across a bunch of different elements. Same thing when it comes to JavaScript or any of those other languages that we're using, and in the interactions on the site itself. You could just basically make one thing and you'd be like, oh, I can make it like this many times, and it's pretty exciting. It's the little nerdy things that make me excited.
Nice. All right. I keep feeling like I'm hogging all the questions. So yeah, so students or teachers or counselors, I know we've got a couple other counselors in here. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask.
Anyone, any questions?
So are you from the Atlanta area? Did you go to school around here?
I did not. I am originally from South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and I went to school at Florida State University. I got both of my degrees there. And then I came up here and started my first job in account management. And then I did my coding boot camp here. It was a company called Digital Crafts in Atlanta Tech Village. And it was a very, very awesome program. So yeah, I've been here for about 6 years now.
So I've heard those boot camps can be pretty intense. Is that accurate? Because I mean, you're fitting in a whole lot of content and material into 4 months. So would you recommend a student to do something like that if they're coming right out of high school? Or would you recommend perhaps they go to college and spread that, learning out over a longer period of time? What do you think about for high school kids?
Coming out of high school, I think it's kind of your preference. I will agree that the coding bootcamp is very condensed. I think you learn a lot in it, though. In my case, it was like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It was basically a job that you went to and just kept learning the content continuously. And then you graduated and they give you career kind of benefits in that sense, or at least helping you get a job and job placement. But on the flip side, though, if you go to college, and me coming from Florida State with 2 different degrees in different aspects, I made a lot of connections, a lot of networking opportunities. In the boot camp class, you do connect, but it's a much smaller scale because it's just through one company that's doing a bunch of different cohorts. And in most cases, from the boot camps and the cohorts, there are other people that are coming from colleges and from, other different careers that are doing a career change in that sense. So they've kind of already done those things and they're moving off into a new direction. But in college, when you're there for 4 years, like, you make so many memories and networking and connections and everything like that. So it's really just your preference on how you want to go about it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. So
We have a question.
yes, let's hear
Yes.
it.
So this was prefaced with, we don't want to sound rude, but could you talk about the salary potentials in your career?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. So I've done research as well. I think the starting salary around kind of a very incoming developer is about 65,000, which is really nice. That's just market, like Atlanta market. It could change based on the market if you go to San Francisco, if you go to New York, any of those places. And that's like starting. Like, if you were just not necessarily an intern, because interns will probably make a little bit less than that, but that's like a junior developer in that sense. And then you kind of move up from there depending on the position that you're going through. It also depends on where you work. So I work at a very small startup company that is only 35 people, and I absolutely love it. I'm having so much fun. It is amazing. I don't make that much compared to what the market is. And I'm okay with that because I'm still comfortable with it and I'm still happy. But you can go to a much bigger company that is probably a little more siloed in your role, which is going to be like, you kind of do the same programming or the same development in that one specific role a little more often than normal. At a smaller agency, you're probably going to wear a lot more hats. So, and actually in my position where I do front end and back end development, I also touch DevOps, which isn't even development. It's like handling servers and handling DNS and handling, domain names and everything like that. And as a developer, that's technically not your job title. So I'm learning a lot more in a much smaller role than if I was at a larger company and I'm a little more siloed in what I do. But at a bigger company, again, earning potential is probably going to be a lot higher. But you just kind of have to balance out what your preferences are, where you're happy, and what you like to do most.
I would imagine it also has something to do if you wanted to go into management or team lead positions as well.
Yes.
I know that ends up increasing your salary as you could move higher up in
Yeah,
particularly
certainly.
I know in software development, right?
Absolutely. And there's kind of some different directions you can go. You can go more architect, where you're less managing a team and managing kind of how an entire project or things are built or how they're designed in that sense. Or you could go management position, which is kind of more managing a team of developers underneath you and kind of going up that role. You have options. Like, you're still going to be doing development at the end of the day, but one might be more managing people more than managing, the actual content or the actual development itself. But you're not stuck in one direction. That's the lovely thing. You can choose where you want to go.
Oh, thank you for that. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, so are you designing the graphical design of this website, or is somebody else doing that part, like the pretty logos and the colors and all of that? And maybe you talked about that before I came in here, or are you only doing the behind the scenes development of how it all works?
For the most part, we're just doing the development. We have a creative team in-house and a design team in-house that actually manages and handles most of the designing. Will I say I've never designed things because they were busy with something? No, I've absolutely jumped in and been like, okay, we're going to make this artistic direction. Like, this is what we're going to do today. And that's just, like I said, kind of in a smaller agency, that's sometimes what comes into it, is you just have to wear a different hat. I've been a creative. I've been a content writer. I never would have thought I'd be doing those things, but here I am as a developer writing in the new message of this homepage. So, but yeah, most of the time it's just development because we do have other members of our team that handle those specific aspects of the website.
Awesome. Other questions?
I know it's almost spring break, guys. Almost there. A few more minutes.
All right, well, I have one more. So
Sure.
yeah, so I know like your job is very like on the computer, it seems. So did pandemic stuff change anything for your job?
On the crazy side, no. We actually transitioned very seamlessly because most of us we're basically all digital anyway. We started opening up Google Meets. We had our Monday morning meetings there and everything like that. However, I have always loved the in-person interactions and my team and just joking around and, shooting Nerf guns at each other in the office. Like that's always been my favorite thing. And that's certainly changed. I mean, we don't really get face-to-face interactions that much, haven't for the past year. We've brought on new members and some of us have never met in person. So that's a little different. And being a smaller team, I feel like we're more closer together as a group where we kind of know each other's like personal lives and like we're more intimate with each other in that sense. So I definitely miss those things. But as far as productivity goes and being able to continue doing the work that we're doing, did not change at all. It's basically the same.
Miss Kaysen, did you have another question? I thought I saw a hand.
No, I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Okay, just checking.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, because yeah, so we've got about 5 more minutes, but yeah, so what's like any predictions for what your role might look like in the next 5 to 10 years, right when these students here are coming out of school or out of college?
I think this role is going to probably skyrocket in a sense. I mean, I think more specific roles like software engineering, which is kind of more application based, while mine's a little more website based. I think those are going to, pretty much take off in the next few years because it's still going to be very much in demand. So I think it's a good industry to at least explore, to at least look into if you do have the interest in it. And like I said, I just do website development. They have many different avenues that you could take. You can build out mobile apps. You can build out computer applications, which actually are a little bit different when you build them. But there's different avenues that you can take. And I think it's a good one and a pretty secure one to get into because I don't think it's going to go away for quite some time.
Yeah. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is coming from me. So Cobb County has a new, what do we call it? Platform? What do we call CTLS? Website that we use now that we've been virtual and face-to-face and both, and it's CTLS. So is that the Cobb County employees who put together CTLS? Do they have a role similar to yours? And could you help make it prettier?
Probably. I can certainly bring it to my team. No, I've actually never seen the site. I could look at it. I would assume, because do you use it for communicating with each other, like kind of like a project management place?
Well, we use it it's sort of like our class blog, but then we also use it to join our kids at home. So it's our Zoom where we log in for Zoom, and then the kids go on there to look at resources and to look at homework assignments, and it's sort of a one-stop shop. But it could be prettier. I think it could be prettier. I like it.
No worries. That could be a mixture of things. Like I said, I haven't looked at it, but it could be kind of an application mixed with a website, or in some cases, because I've done this with First Watch too, it could be one website and using API integrations to work with third-party applications. So as an example with First Watch, if anyone's heard of Zendesk is like those, I sent in a problem and they send back a ticket and I'm working with customer service. Like I know there's a lot of online shopping. Y'all have probably used it before. But we've integrated that with First Watch as well. So if a customer sends in an issue, but we don't own Zendesk. So we own the website and we manage the website. And then Zendesk is a third party. So CTLS might be that same way where it's just a website and it's a front end facing thing and more of like a content management system in that sense, where you handle blog posts and users and PDFs or homework assignments that you're uploading in that sense. But it's using applications like Zoom to interact with the students on that sense. So it sounds like a mixture, but I'll take a look at it and maybe we can, spice it up a bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know, yeah, the bell might ring within the next minute, but if we
All
have,
good.
yeah, any last questions? Okay, if you guys will actually do me a favor, if you can fill this survey out real quick, it'll take you like 1 minute tops. That would help me. But yeah, if you have any last questions that you were scared to put, you can put them in the chat. But thank you.
Thank you.
For
Thank
joining.
you for your time. Have a great spring break.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Y'all wave goodbye. Say thank you. They're ready for spring break.
I know, I would be too.
Thank you for spending time with us, though. We
Of
appreciate
course, you're
it.
so welcome.
Caught
Bye.
everybody at the end of the day. But Marissa, this was really cool information. I'm Jamie Hamrick. I'm one of the counselors.
Hi.
There's the bell.